Hey Ryan, how are you doing tonight?
I was trying to be cheeky and had my head turned, waiting for you to say, "How am I doing?" And I was going to turn and be like, "Who, me?" But then
Yeah.
the pop-up was there, and I got distracted by it and ruined my surprise gag. I am good.
Okay.
I am. How are you?
I'm doing well. As you can see or not see behind me, there's no green screen and no fun background this week. But that's because I'm getting ready to move, as you know, but maybe the people listening or watching don't know that. Getting ready to move back to Cincinnati area with you at some point, and hopefully we sell this house quickly. So boring background tonight. I do have one of my favorite games related to our topic tonight. I'm having trouble pointing at it, but that's the thing. How about you? What? I see something behind you there. What's going on there?
Oh yeah, this is. I'm never going to get rid of this green screen. I love the one that I picked. This is Panamax by Stronghold Games, and this is one of my favorite games. This is my favorite game.
That's your favorite game? Okay.
It's my favorite game.
Why is that your favorite game?
Because I love shipping goods through the Panama Canal. And not only do I love to do it efficiently to earn money and praise, but I also like to take that money and invest in other people shipping goods, and in order to make the most money personally, not as a company, in order to be a victor.
That sounds like a train game. Just with boats.
Yeah, these are boats. One of these boats is the Panamax.
Oh, okay. I know nothing about the Panamax. Do you know anything about the Panamax?
Yeah, its size is like listed on the back of the board. So when I played this on my birthday, for one of my birthdays a few years ago, I don't remember which one. I believe a brother-in-law of yours won. But I think I did listen to, or at least sing, Panama a lot. And I told the president of Stronghold Games this, and he actually told me that the best that they've ever seen is someone played this on a boat.
On a boat in Panama, in the Panama Canal?
In the Panama Canal.
Wow.
So I thought my, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry, David Lee Roth. Thought my David Lee Roth reference was something cute, and he was like, "Oh yeah, that's all right."
That's all right, but it's not Instagram worthy.
Yeah, you didn't play it in the Panama Canal on a boat.
On a boat.
I think I did ask if it was a Panamax, and he said it was not.
Okay.
So I still have an opportunity.
I do have to say, have you ever stopped and watched a freighter come into port? It is amazingly relaxing.
No, I don't live near a port.
Okay.
I have canoed and dodged barges, and that's not relaxing.
I believe that. We should tell that story. I was going to say big boats.
Yeah.
On the Great Lakes. There's a lot of big boats that carry ore. I guess, maybe coal too. I don't know.
I think the Edmund Fitzgerald carried ore, I believe.
Yeah.
On the lake they call Gitchaguni.
Okay. I didn't know that. But I have no idea what just happened there. But no, I was just going to say, it is really, so when they come in and they're going down I don't know if they're. I'm not a native Michigander. I love being up here and I love seeing things. And I can sit and watch a big boat come in. It's really relaxing just to see how good they are at their job, because they're moving probably like 15 knots, which is pretty fast. And they come right in, and it's relaxing to see somebody who is really capable at their job with something so large. Maybe that's just, I don't know, how some people like watching like coffee get ground or just random things.
I would much rather, I think, watch a freighter come in than watch coffee get ground. But
sure, but how people like watching random things on the internet.
I might check that out. I'd watch that. I would rather see it in person though.
Oh no, yeah, definitely in person. I'm just saying. I think it could be one of those weird things. Like it's an anomaly type thing for me. He likes to sit and watch the freighters come into port.
Yeah, sitting on the dock of the bay.
Yeah. So I'm sure that's a song reference that I don't know because I don't remember lyrics. Anyway, so what we're going to talk about tonight is local game stores, why we think they're important, and the industry, and kind of big box stores. Would you consider Barnes and Noble a big box store? I guess, right?
It's like a
bookstore version of a big
it's a
box store.
franchise.
Yeah, franchise. And exclusivity and all that. We're not going to get into a bunch of numbers because, as usual, this is just us talking our opinions more than anything else, and what we think is good. But this year, I was mentioning to you earlier, board game sales are up, unsurprisingly, with the pandemic going on, with COVID and everything else. I think also part of it has to do with the fact that board games were getting ready to grow again. Anyways, last year was kind of flat, but a growth year. But there was a growth year in card games and role-playing games and things like that last year. This year, the only area in tabletop gaming that didn't grow last time I saw numbers was RPGs. RPGs were basically flat, which makes sense, right? Because people are going to play online. They're going to do Fantasy Grounds and
Roll20.
Yeah, Roll20 and Tabletopia and
that's what
all
we
that stuff, right? So we can see how that went, but I don't think that it means that they went away, and it's likely that they're going to grow again when people go back to more in-person gaming. So with that, and I actually got interviewed when I was working at the store for a different podcast that I'm terrible for not remembering the name of right now. It's a really smart podcast. I've listened to a couple of his things. Now I got to look it up and reference it maybe in the notes for this. But he asked us just, about, okay, so if you can't do the things that you normally do, like I had helped out, and part of the reason I had become manager is I had helped out with events, which for a lot of stores, that's a big deal, right? Your Friday Night Magic or your Warhammer or
Wednesday night D&D leagues,
Adventure League, things like that. If you can't do those things, or like the big one for us had been Pokemon on Friday nights, if you can't do that, what is the purpose of a local store, and why should people shop at a local store? And I won't. Yeah, I'll bring him up, but Tom Vassell more than once. Who is the biggest name in board gaming, has said, okay, what's the point? Why should I shop at a local store just because you live close to me versus online or whatever? And I don't think he's doing that maliciously. And I don't think that he's doing it necessarily because he gets some kind of weird cut or has a weird relationship with Cool Stuff Inc. I mean, he has been very honest and open about what his relationship is, that they sponsor some of the events for the Dice Tower, and he does mention them both on his videos and in the podcasts he has for a few years. So he's not hiding anything there. All that to say, I disagree with him completely, which is probably for most people not that contentious of a thing to say. But I also think that why don't you go ahead and talk about this? I also think that there's a group of people who are like, why are you talking about local stores? Why should I buy at local stores? And before we get into our reasons, you can mention that. Before the thing about policing.
Oh yeah. Just people get any reference to shopping local, especially for board gamers, is sometimes met with an aggressive counter of, or why are you policing where I shop? And I, I'm not here to really police where anybody shops. Do what you want, but there are benefits for the community for shopping local.
Agreed.
And there's benefits, in my opinion, for the entire industry for shopping local, which is why I think a lot of the major manufacturers and publishers still do local brick and mortar promotions.
Yes.
Because they know that. As much as people want to think that they know more than the publishers are putting money out to support brick and mortar because they know that they have value.
Absolutely. And we'll just let this take it where it takes us tonight. But I think that's the first thing I'd like to talk about is just in general. Again, I agree. I don't want to do the policing thing of like, hey, you should feel bad if you don't shop local, whatever. And a lot of times people will be like, well, why should I feel bad for wanting to live within my budget and so forth? I don't think you should. I also don't think if you can, it's a bad thing to pay a little more at a local shop, primarily just of any kind. And that's where I want to start. Or is that if you can pay a little more at a local shop of any kind, we know without a doubt that more of that money will stay locally than if we shop at Walmart online or Amazon online or whatever big box store online. We know that more of that money stays local and stays invested in the local community. And right that is, if you're just go for it. Yeah.
Oh, and I was just saying that's reason number one.
Yeah. I think that right there is enough of a reason to pay a little more if you can. That is that worth a 10%, 20% premium? Yeah, because I think short-sightedness is part of the reason. There's a number of great documentaries on this, but short-sightedness about how we spend our money, especially in the United States, has put us in a predicament that isn't great. Without getting into tons of I mean, we could talk about all sorts of things here, but like we pretend to be a capitalist society. We're not very good at being a capitalist society compared to the rest of the world. We have a number of subsidies that exist for bigger companies that don't exist in the same way for smaller companies. I'd like
the local shop get that money because even if they're struggling and they're not closing their doors, they're bringing something in the community and they're getting a good wage. If they sold board games, if they did the same thing but they worked for Amazon, like the wages aren't as high. But to digress off of that,
Sure, go ahead.
The main reason besides the local dollars, besides the fact that I know the guys and gals that run these businesses, I had a rough home life, and my first job when I was like 13 or 14 was in a game store. I got paid 1 pack of Magic a shift, and I had to sweep the floors, take out the garbage, restock the cooler. And then once a week, I had to shake the Ral Partha. This is Games Workshop, but the Ral Partha paints so that it didn't stick. That was the worst part of my job. And
how many of those were there?
There was like 50. Eventually, I put them in a card box, and I would shake them all like 20 at a time.
Yeah.
But it was awful. I hated doing that. But they provided me a refuge from my home and a community to be within. And that got me in. I was already into gaming when I went there, but then having that opportunity introduced me to effectively everyone I know today. Yeah. I literally know you because I worked at another game store in my early 20s.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Because when the brother-in-law, who we've mentioned several times, moved to Cincinnati, he was regularly playing Magic again, and he got connected with the community there. And
he didn't play there. I met him playing Magic in a bar.
Okay. Well, okay.
But through somebody that I met at that game store. Right. So so that's just like me personal anecdote, but also like you do get to build that community. You do get to meet like-minded people. You get to make friends. It's like going to a bar to socialize. It is a place for socialization.
Yeah.
And then also with that, it's a place for ideas. And I think the biggest thing that the industry might realize is, well, for them, it's a way for their games to be marketed for free because people will talk about games.
Right.
But also it's a way for people to get into it and make more games.
Yeah.
You know, like everything, that's kind of the beating heart of the industry is the brick and mortar stores.
Yeah. And so as usual, this is jumping all over the place, but
I think we're enough episodes in for people to realize that that's what they're getting.
Yeah.
You're welcome, listeners.
Yeah. I have no idea who the people are who are listening, but somebody is, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So
Thanks for the validation.
So when we think about, and you and I have both encountered stores like this, part of the argument, whether it's from Tom or people online or whatever, is why should I give my dollars to Joe Schmo who has, or Jill Schmo who has the shop, and it's just there and they're selling and they do nothing when I walk through the door to earn my business. And yeah, maybe they offer some local events, but I'm never going to attend those local events. But they happen to live half a mile. Their shop happens to be half a mile from where I live. Why? So we've already mentioned one reason that your money is going to stay local, and it's more likely to benefit you in the long run because it's benefiting your community. You know, we could we kind of alluded to part of that. You know, but it's the Walmart effect versus the Main Street effect, right? Of your local dollars. Okay, if that's not enough of a reason for you, and the community part isn't going to speak to you, that's kind of your second reason. And I think that's mine too. Is I think that's there. And you touched on a third reason, which is for publishers, and I would like to come back to that one. But for the individual there who's like, I am just a consumer. There's 5,000 games coming out a year. So what if half of those don't get produced? I don't care. Why should I care if there's a local store here or not? Do you have any response to that?
I mean, yeah, like if you've got all of your friends and you're just happy with the friends that you have and you don't want to expand, or, you know, if you just want to exist and get all of your information about games and your hobby, like if it's like truly your hobby and you truly love it, like I'm not going to limit myself to just reading about it online. It's not like I can watch about video games on TV. It's not like there's an ESPN channel. So
I mean, there basically is now, but
there is.
Well, not on TV, but you know, there's Discord and there's YouTube channels.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I just didn't want to sound like I was saying if you want to get everything online, you big nerd. But I mean, it's, you know, I get my information online, so I'm not trying to disparage people who maintain their friendships online,
right?
You know, or get their information online. But for gaming, you know, there's not a lot of you know, meeple and minute, or you know, there's not a lot of pamphlets or periodicals you're getting in the mail for board.
Oh, gotcha.
So your media, your way to get information about gaming is online or in store or with your friends.
Yeah.
And if you're comfortable with your relationship of just online and friends and you don't want to expand that at all, then yeah, maybe a store doesn't have anything to offer to you. But I mean, me personally, that's not for me. I think that there's always something for me to receive in going to a store, be it playing with new people or discovering new games, and also supporting someone who's taking a financial risk to do something that they love in order to also bring, you know, stuff to the community.
And I think that's where we have to put a big caveat. And I don't know that it's even that big of a caveat. I think that the owner or the manager, whoever's running it, does need to have that love for games.
Yeah.
and the people working there need to have a love for games. Otherwise, there isn't a reason to go to your local store. If they don't know what they're talking about, if they haven't played some games that they love at all recently, which is the hard thing. Like every game store owner will say that they don't get to play as much as they used to or want to. But if they have no love for any of it and they have no expertise, they're not running events that you're interested in, they don't have better prices, then yeah, there is absolutely no reason to go to your local store.
I mean,
right?
it's still a retail space. And yeah, at that point, if you're not bringing anything into the community and you are like, have a look of just deadness in your eyes and you provide awful customer service, that's true for any industry.
Well, and that's kind of the argument. So going on a bigger scale, since we're just talking about industry and local game stores and everything, we're jumping all over the place. That's what some of the people are saying about Fantasy Flight Games right now, right? Is that it's owned by a bunch of investors who don't necessarily care about the people playing the game, and they're just there to make the money. And so they've cut some of the great games over the last few years because it's more
about Asmodee as a whole. So,
oh, you didn't know that?
I know. Are you talking about Asmodee or FFG?
Oh, really? Asmodee, yeah.
Yeah, because that's what I've heard about them as well. Yeah, they saw the market, they invested, they made this, they gobble up game companies, and now they're doing their own distro model.
Right. And so, it is that. I mean, the hard thing is some really great games have come out from them in the last few years, and continue to come out. Have they also cut some things that they probably shouldn't have? That if they were on a smaller publisher, that would have kept going. Yeah, that's also true too. So, like, I guess what I'm saying is making money, because selling games is a potential moneymaker. And right now it seems to be easier than it was like 20 years ago, for example.
And I am involved with board games. I have worked in 3 different game stores in my life, and I've never made any money. I mean, I've been paid back in Magic, Minnesota.
Is that enough of a reason, though, for whether it's a game store or a publisher or anything else? Is that enough of a reason, enough of a compelling reason for us as gamers to continue to support either one? If they don't have any passion for what they're doing, and then that's hard to gauge.
I mean, the people that design the games have passion. Probably. I mean, I don't think that the investors, that run the company aren't designing the games.
Right.
So by buying the game, you're still supporting the designers and stuff. But yeah, do I want do I want it to have that precision, efficiency, economic model, capitalist model where it becomes like the Hollywood movies board game type thing where we have indie publishers with one things, and that's sorry, you're talking about this and I'm thinking of like,
no. You know what? That's really interesting.
Bubble, like, yeah.
I think that's really interesting that your mind went there, because I didn't say either, but like, as you're talking about the people who are supported by the sale of a game, like it's so true. It's very similar to the making of a movie in that respect, that like when you make a movie, it's not just the director and the big name actors and those people who get paid, right? It's also the guy working lights, and it's the guy working sound, and it's the guy cleaning the place, cleaning the studio and everything else. And that's why I don't steal movies personally. It's not because it's not hard, you can do it, but because I want to support those people with those jobs.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't download a car. Sorry.
There's actually a guy out in California who did. He had enough 3D printing stuff that he printed all the pieces. Yeah. And then, but I mean, he also, he had a nice enough shop. He could do some of the metal pieces for his frame. So
Yeah.
that's a whole different story than most people.
If you have enough money to download and make a car, you have enough money to buy a movie.
Yes, absolutely. You probably have enough money to fund a small independent documentary too, right?
About downloading a car.
Yeah. So anyway, we're getting super sidetracked, and that's my fault. So why? What do you think? Let's go ahead and go to this. We haven't really solved anything, and I don't know that we were trying to solve anything. But
I was.
Oh, were you? Okay. What were you trying to solve?
It was the energy crisis, and then we started talking about board games. So
okay. I'm all for the saltwater plan. As we think about this, what do you think? So last week, let's see, what game was it? Not Blood Bowl, but Blitz Bowl, right?
Oh yeah.
What do you think of
the
exclusivity? Yeah. What do you think about that?
So I really want to pick up Blitz Bowl for my 7-year-old soon to be. And not that I don't know if she'll enjoy it or not. Maybe I just really want to pick it up for myself. But yeah, it's exclusive through Barnes & Nobles. I haven't shopped in Barnes & Nobles in a very long time. And not for any particular reason, but I just haven't, I'm
sure.
I shop at half price books for my books.
Okay. Sure.
So, and I read, if I do read, it's like older sci-fi or fantasy. So, and the secret about shopping at half price books is get the older copies of the book because it's half price the cover. So the older copies are cheaper.
Right.
It's expensive. And they smell better. So I kind of hate it. Because I don't want to drive to Barnes & Nobles to buy a board game. I actually called one of my local game stores or messaged them and asked them if they could order the new season of Blitz Bowl, and they said that they couldn't because I had heard that some game stores could get it, but I'm pretty confident it's only because those game stores are not in countries that have Barnes & Nobles. So it creates a problem for people. It's like a stepping stone entry game for Blood Bowl for Games Workshop in the US, but then people who want to play it in the UK or Australia or I don't know, wherever doesn't have Barnes & Nobles can't actually get the game.
Interesting.
I think that's silly. And I don't like exclusivity for people who are very large.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic, right? Like, except that Barnes & Noble has had trouble staying solvent the last few years. One of the few parts of their company that has been profitable and hasn't bottomed out is board games. So,
and I did actually look at their board game area over the summer because I'm self-employed, Yeah. So it's important that people keep their money local for me because I need that money for myself and my kids and my family. Yeah. But I did go in there to get some coffee one day and also because we were eating lunch at a place across the street from it. And I was like, hey, let's run in here and get some coffee. You want some coffee? I'll buy to this guy I was working with. And also I wanted to see how much Blitz Bowl was. And then I did, but they had like a really nice board game selection and it was very well stocked. And it was a lot more than it was 20 years ago when I used to go to Barnes & Nobles all the time. Oh,
absolutely. Yeah. Whoever does their like regional purchasing and national purchasing is doing a good job. What amazes me is how often though it goes on clearance sections of it because they're getting good stuff. And then you'll see sections of it go on clearance because it's not selling to their metrics, which is telling me that they have somebody who knows board games doing the purchasing, but then it's not reaching the demographic that's in Barnes & Noble, which kind of defeats the purpose of it, right? So maybe it is. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, and before I dog Barnes & Nobles too much for exclusivity, not every city has a game store, and not every city has a Barnes & Nobles. But I'd rather people would have access to stuff than none at all.
Oh, absolutely, and have more than one choice, and that's the thing. Is during the during the shutdown for us back in March, Clank, the legacy version of Clank was $350 for like 3 or 4 days, and they were still selling it from Amazon. So while our local store that I worked at the time, while we had it on the shelf for the MSRP of 100, Amazon was still selling it for that price because they had it in their warehouses and they could.
Well, that's usually a third party seller.
Okay, sure, but even if it is, a large chunk of that money is going to Amazon because it's in the Amazon warehouse and they're doing the distro and all that.
100%. Ignore me. You're right.
Well, because all if someone listening,
yeah.
Well, because if somebody listening or watching doesn't understand how that works, is one way it can work with Amazon is you purchase the item. So, like, I buy a pallet of maybe Cryptid, right? I buy a pallet of Cryptid. It goes to Amazon's warehouse. It sits there. I pay them a monthly fee for the amount of space that item is taking up. As it sells, that's when Amazon is taking that chunk out. Now, I might have depending on how big I am and how many items I have sitting in their warehouses, then I might pay more or less, depending on how that's negotiated. Usually, it's not going to work out well for me. Again, this monopolistic system isn't working out well for all of us because one company is dominating rather than having a true free market, right? Because if they're able to dictate, well, we decided to raise your rate on your warehouse space this month. Why? Because we want to, because a pandemic's going on. Then then they're going to charge $350 for that again. But yeah, then Amazon for doing absolutely nothing different except sending their robot out, and then their one person who gets paid maybe $12 an hour. So maybe it's more than the fast food, but it's still not a great wage. Those two are going to have contact with that item, and then Amazon gets paid $40 for their little bit of interaction with that game. Like, I don't know. That was kind of a rant there, but I don't think, and we don't need to get into all this. I don't think Jeff Bezos is the worst thing ever. I think he has been, and his company. We'll just say his company and companies, because there's a bunch of them, not just the one, right?
Yeah,
have been enabled to become this way because sometimes we just buy to buy. And don't think about it, and we buy whatever's cheapest. Go ahead.
Well, it's an Amazon example. A month before Frostgrave's second edition came out, I ordered it from my LGS. You know what? They're all my FLGS. Every store that I order stuff from Cincinnati is my FLGS. I ordered the book a month before it came out, and talking to a buddy about it, he orders it off of Amazon the day before it comes out. He gets his the next day. However, the Frostgrave books, through how they're distributed, while it released on August 28th or whatever, it didn't go into the game store distribution supply chain until September 8th. So I actually didn't get my book for another week and a half, 10 days, which it doesn't really matter. Like, I didn't cancel my order. I responded with, oh, that sucks. But then I kind of knew about that because I had tried to order those books before, but like, how is a small game store supposed to compete with the largest employer in the U.S.?
I don't know. Yeah. Right. Like, and that, I guess that's the other thing is that should be, again, if you're just looking for the selfish causes or reasons here, that should be a reason right there to support local game stores. Is, do you really want to only have one or two options to shop at in the future?
Yeah. Go
ahead.
No, and that's just, I agree with that. Like, I'm very adamant. I always contact my locals first. I like the Kickstarter model. They get 9 to 10% of a cut, which always blows my mind when you watch like Reaper Bones. Like, I'm big into minis, so I back every Reaper Bones for $1 because I'm like, I'll just pick what I want. I think they just did Bones 5, and finally actually ordered something instead of just giving them $1.
What did you order?
Oh, I ordered the giant Shalub type spider set.
Yeah.
And some spiders. And I think I ordered something else to kind of surprise me, and I forgot. I was at work. I was taking a break, working outside, sitting in the shade, got an email, and I think it was like, oh, I'll have that. So I don't want to check because it's going to be a surprise. Or what I probably did is I thought about it a long time and then was like, no, I'm not going to do this. And now I've convinced myself that I did, and then I'm going to be sad. But I would have saved money. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't do. Let's go ahead and talk about Kickstarter a little bit. But I don't do tons of Kickstarters. But like when I do, it's so fun to, and I get why people kind of get addicted to it. There's probably people who have written papers on this for their theses. But like the whole thing of like, oh, I ordered this and then forgetting about it and then it showing up later on and you're like, oh, I have a brand new game to play that I didn't even see on the shelf, but I remember watching a video 6 to 9 months ago. Or
and then you got to go back to the page and like,
right.
But the Kickstarter gets 9% of that as a platform host. But then you look at like Reaper ranked up like 2 mil,
right?
2 point something. Like Kickstarter just gets a cool $200,000. Good job, Reaper Bones.
Right, just for like hosting and doing things that cost them. Let's go ahead.
Oh, that totally just reminded me of the this is for going off the rails here, but the Steve Jobs Apple conversation where he was talking about increasing the prices on ebook distribution or music, something distribution, ePlay, their game store. And people were complaining about the cut that they were taking as a digital host. And his counter argument was, well, if you go through the distribution model, they're keeping 45% and you have to have a physical product. And here I'm only taking 33. And
he makes it sound good, right?
It does. It does. It's like, well, that's reasonable, but also, it's like it's so tangled up, and it's such a hard thing to like unravel. And like, what is the best way to do things? But I think the best way to do things is, if you support on Kickstarter, you're supporting like a passion project. If you're buying in a local game store, you're supporting a passion project. A lot of people on Kickstarter don't want to do one-offs. They want to build a brand and make it a livelihood. And, they want to do what they love so that they can learn how to hate what they love.
That's one of the things that we've mentioned Jamie Stonemaier before, and I try to catch his weekly talks when I can. But I like the fact that he has a game plan and a business plan and a vision for what he wants to do. And I like that he doesn't want to do games that don't fit into that. Speaking about passions and things like that, like I don't think everybody understood how some of the Kickstarter experience was for him, like how poor of a business model that is for people when you get to a bigger scale, unless you're a company like, CMON or CMON, depending on which era you listen to. And that was the big news. Did I tell you about that? Eric Lang leaving. Did we talk about that?
I don't know if we talked about it. Oh yeah, I think we talked about it a while ago. But
okay, yeah, it was like a month ago. Yeah, I want to see what he does next. Away, because it seems like he's been really tied down to certain things. Even we'll come back to Eric Lang, I'm sure. So thinking about this, what I think will be what I personally think will be an important part of moving forward in the industry for publishers is kind of having a 3 or maybe even 4 prong approach to how they release games. I see the potential for like direct releases. Hey, here's a game. It's smaller, whatever. We did a limited run of it, and we're going to do exclusivity. But that exclusivity is you not only can go to Barnes and Noble and get it, or Target, or whatever that is, but you can also buy it from our website. I think that would be a better model of the exclusivity, so that it's not dependent on one
region.
One local store. But for the people who find it there, they can still put their sticker on it. Exclusively sold at, right? Because that's still a true statement. Exclusively sold at. So they have that part. They have their Kickstarter arm for things that are maybe more experimental or just a little bit different that way. And then they have a traditional just distribution model where it's getting to retail. And then maybe even some sort of hybrid of any of those. What I don't love is what Funko's been doing. They've been putting out some interesting games, and I'm gonna forget on the name of the publishing house that they're working with. But so they've put out
Funko, like the
So they put out a game like Back to the Future wasn't that great, but like Pan Am, a lot of people are enjoying, and so they're doing the little Funkoverse. 1 versus 1 or 2 versus 2. It's better on 1-on-1, but where you have little Funko Pops and you, it's just basically a roll and dudes on a board game.
I didn't know that Funko had its own verse, but I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it's fun. It's fast. It's a super light game. But what I do like, since we're talking about what I like about it, is that they actually have lots of powers. I think there's like 40 characters out now. Like Jack Skellington just came out for Halloween, which is right. It's fun to have a little Jack. You don't like Jack Skellington?
No. Don't. Then I can't say that. I can't because people will rage.
Too late. I mean, you already made the face.
No, they're going to be listening to this.
Oh, just listen.
I was smiling big.
He's smiling very, very big.
I love Nightmare Before Christmas. I'm shaking my head. Yes. Sorry. No, I won't lie to you, listeners. I listen to this at work sometimes, so I'll confuse myself, and I'll be like, "Did I really?" Anyway, so Funkoverse, Jack Scully.
Anyways, all that to say, like, I don't like it when there's this like, here's 4 months of exclusivity timed to a certain window related to holidays. That's annoying because they have to know that hurts little stores. Like, there's no other reason to do that type of a release than that.
How does it hurt little stores?
Well, if a little store doesn't have access to something at Christmas time, I mean,
where someplace else, not in those. Yeah, no one.
Right. Yeah. I do find that because that's just like saying, well, we want to help the big store out. Like, are they really taking that much of a risk carrying the line? Probably not. No. Otherwise, you wouldn't be doing this. So have them carry the line exclusively, sure.
And if they buy in a larger bulk anyway, then they're probably getting a better rate.
Oh, they absolutely are.
So there's a lot of pandering to the already successful. It's like in my work. The pricing on the materials that I use, my pricing is a lot worse than the big guys.
Sure.
I've heard the pricing. People pay a substantial amount of money less for materials than I do. And that could turn into like, they could save so much on materials for a job that they could pay a guy to work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not like a lot of money to work, but they could pay a guy. They could save $100 on materials over what I save, which they could pay a guy to apply those materials.
Sure.
So and you're already pandering to the big guys. I think the fifth one in your thing though is organized play kits, which are a little bit dangerous. I actually had a pretty did Blood Rage, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a rough experience trying to get organized play kits from them.
My feelings on them is they're a pretty terrible company anyway.
Yeah. I might have, it might have been real late one night at Gen Con, and I might have seen some of the guys that work there, and I might have name dropped the rep for organized play kits, and I might have been like, he sucks.
How did they react to that?
They were like, "Oh, he's a friend of ours," and I was like, "Okay, well, that's unfortunate. He still sucks." But I was very tired. I shouldn't tell this story.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So yeah. Anyway. But organized play kits, I think, are something that is really what I would like to see publishers and game stores do if you have that kind of dedicated space. But they're a gamble because some people just get them and then flip the organized play stuff on online on eBay or whatever.
Absolutely.
Some stores don't. It's something that has to be managed.
I have a story about that. So we've talked about Marvel Champions that came out last year, 2019. So we took a little bit longer to finally get our kits for the open play. Yeah. And finally we got them. We had to get some directly from, we actually had a really good rep from FFG. So and I will say this, actually, them going to direct distro, I don't know why they're doing ACD except maybe to help out stores that already had a good ACD account. ACD, if people aren't familiar, is based out of Wisconsin. They are a game distributor that's owned by a former professional Magic player who they are now, arguably they could now be the largest game distributor in the United States. It's hard to tell. A lot has changed in the last year, but they have.
It's wild.
They went from being third to, I think they're probably the biggest now.
You get that Asmodee contract, yeah.
That's the big thing. So, and in this last year, Asmodee, which is a bunch of companies, including Fantasy Flight and Space Cowboy, and I don't know, name some for me. But they have like Ticket to Ride and Catan and things like that. Asmodee is doing their own direct distribution to stores, as well as going through ACD. Where was I going with all
you got the organized play kit for the
month. Yeah. So we finally got that. And actually, and again, I do want to say our rep from Asmodee was really good, and they've done a good job, at least for us in Michigan, of being a good distributor and doing some good things as rep. So anyways, we finally got it. We get it, and our guys get to play, and we charged a nominal fee, like there was like a $5 range that was suggested. I think it was like $15 or $20, something like that, because you got a play mat with it.
Oh, okay.
But
for every player or for top 8?
For every player.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Because it's a co-op game.
Yeah, usually the kits are, if they're just cards, it's usually like what we used to do was a $5 buy-in. It was like cards and tokens, so it was $5, and then we paid all that out in store credit.
Yeah.
But if the kits were a certain amount, so that there was like math.
Right. No, yeah. I mean, stores have to think about margin, and that's what people don't realize is like, okay, you're paying somebody to be there, you're paying for the sewage, you're paying for which people who come to game stores, they definitely use the restrooms. You're paying for soap and paper towels and the tables that are there and everything else, the lights to be on.
I've definitely have delivered soap to game stores.
Yeah, well, they need it. So anyways, we charged a minimal amount, less than we would charge on anything. We wanted to make it accessible. It was sold out. And then, not that any of the people that came, but we saw within a week or two after we ran our event, because other stores were able to get around the same times we saw stores selling their mats online for $40, $50, $60 a mat.
That's not uncommon.
No, it's not. But I have to think, like, it's no wonder some of the publishers, when they see this, are like, why should we keep doing things that support you, local stores, when you do the boneheaded things like that?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes stores need the money, or if you don't have an event. I know some stores that what they'll do is if the event doesn't move or doesn't happen, because it's hard to manage. You have people come in and you're like, why don't you guys play any Magination here? And I'm like, well, that game's like was alive for 2 years in like the early 2000s, mid 2000s. And they're like, but there's a big Magination scene, and people have on the flip side, for expectations of staff, they have this expectation that you're going to have the games that they want, that you love, or that they love, and have that scene there. And it's really hard to order those kits, put the money out for them, and then if you don't have the player base, and it's kind of like a chicken egg thing,
Right.
Like, if I need the kits to get the player, I had an experience when L5R relaunched through FFG, and we kind of made it clear to the local game store, and not me, I try not to be super hands-on with game stores anymore. I don't want to organize events. I've organized a lot of events. I used to be an organizer for AEG, technically, for years as a part of their volunteer program. We made it pretty clear, please get the organized play kits. And they didn't. And then they got, but they had a lot of people buy the beginning set that came out. So they put a lot of that money towards buying more of the expansion sets.
Was this Smash Up or what?
No, it was L5R's expansion.
Oh, that one. Sorry. Okay.
Five Rings.
Yep.
Anyway, I stopped going.
Yeah.
I didn't have any of the things on pre-order, so I didn't if I have a pre-order, I'll buy it. But yeah, you don't have the organized play kits. I don't want to play at your store.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. Well, let's wrap up with this. Do you see local game stores growing or diminishing in the next few years?
I have no idea because I have been out of it. I've been out of the industry for the last 2 or 3 years. I'd like to see them growing. I think that there's a push to shop local that resurges every now and then. Mm-hmm. I think it depends on the locality, and there's also the big baddies, that people can't compete with. So with COVID right now, a lot of locals are having problems getting their product on time because of shipping delays and manufacturing delays. Yeah. Not always happening to the number one employer in the United States.
Right.
So you're going to have people that are going to blame the businesses. So I don't know. What's your opinion?
I think that the stores that are innovative are the ones that are going to come through. I think that we're going to see a lot of innovation in the next few years. And there's things that we can't quite anticipate yet.
As put a restaurant in there?
I think we're kind of past, especially with this year. We're kind of there's a lot of stores that had restaurants and coffee shops. Actually, there was one out in LA that was really cool, like restaurant and bar. They were, there's this list. A guy who blogs. I'll have to remember to put this in the notes too. But there's been a couple hundred stores that have closed this year. Smaller stores that have closed. A lot of those were heavily dependent on their Friday Night Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon types of things. And if you were overly dependent, I think that hurt you. I think if you're overly dependent on a food or coffee based model, that probably hurt you. So I think that there's going to be some new model probably that comes up. I mean, the big news a couple of weeks ago too was that the board game restaurant in Chicago that was started by the guys who from Cards Against Humanity. Mm-hmm. I actually met their purchaser for the card games at the Alliance Open House last year, but they're already selling it to. Oh goodness sakes! I can't think of the name of the one from Toronto, the board game cafe from Toronto, Snakes and Lattes. Okay. The Snakes and Lattes has like 4 or 5 other of these restaurants, and they're buying the board game restaurant in Chicago that the Cards Against Humanity is started. So I think that the food based model, unless you're doing it really really well, which Snakes and Lattes does, is hard. Restaurants are hard anyways, and your margins are thin anyways. So
the capital takes to start up because everybody's like, I don't know. I always love it when people have solutions like, well, if you want your store to be successful, why don't you sell a panini? And it's like right. $40,000 to $80,000 to get up to code to put a panini press in here.
Yeah. I don't have any tons of particulars, but I think we'll probably see new innovations, and we need some publishers to either cut down on. You got some food going there. Awesome.
My lovely wife just brought me cookies.
Oh, that sounds awesome. I just think that we're going to have to see some innovation, both from companies who are publishing, from local businesses, from even the regional ones. I'm gonna call out a name that I wouldn't mind seeing disappear because I know these people. They celebrate when other local stores go out of business, and so I'm going to call them out because they're in Cincinnati, and I'm not going to shop there. And that's the Gaming Goat. Not that I wish any harm on the franchise owner, but I hope he makes a good. They're up in Westchester area.
Oh, really? Yeah. So that's how bad I am. Like, I will call out the game stores that I love.
Yeah, do that.
Yeah,
since I was just super negative.
Games out on the it's a gaming store private club. Love that place. Olivia runs it, and then the new Yottaquest. I've always loved the Yottaquest guys.
Yottaquest guys are awesome. Yep.
So, but those are like it's like but yeah, since I stopped going to, like, we used to roll to like all the different game stores in the city to check them out like 10 years ago, and like now I don't do that. I don't go anywhere. Well, especially now, but even before now, I'm like, I'm going to go to these stores because I like these people. I have people that I know there. You know, they support the games that I like to play.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they call out businesses for failing. That's kind of rough.
Yeah, there's a lot there, and I know that they can be aggressive. So if they hear this, fine. Whatever. And here's one more local business I'm going to mention that has nothing to do with gaming really directly. It's my friend Gabe's Grindhouse Coffee, Munster, Indiana. So another local business. And the game store I worked at before quitting so I can move back to Cincinnati is Out of the Box in Zeeland and Kentwood, Michigan.
Nice show. Which one was the one I went to? Was that Zeeland?
You went to the Zealand one. You never actually, I think, visited the one I managed. So that's okay. Well, thank you, Ryan. I didn't even get to talk about Cryptid. Let's talk about Halloween-related games, or at least adjacent games next week, and just have some fun with that since I was a little bit negative tonight.
No. And yeah, I mean, it's just opinions, man. And there's so much to unpack in it, you know, like,
yep, exactly.
I feel you. It's a lot. Well, I hope you have a fantastic night. And just remember, if you're ever at Gen Con and you're getting a game demoed at the Greater Than Games booth, it may actually be Gabe from the coffee shop that's teaching you the game.
Oh, did he teach you at the Greater Than Games booth?
Mm-hmm. He demos, from what I understand, he demos for them often. And I always say hi. And sometimes we'll see each other getting in line for coffee at Sleepy Bee. No, I don't know. Whatever coffee place is across the street from Gen Con.
I'm sure the people will know. The people who go to Gen Con.
They got an express lane for people who just want some coffee. I'm not poo-pooing whatever people like. I'm lactose intolerant, so I just like my coffee.
Right.
No. I mean, I will jazz it up sometimes, but I'm also cheap. So
all right. We'll sign off there.